Straight talk from Israel. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
Welcome to Beyond the Matrix with Rod Bryant and Jerry Gordon. Here on Israel News Talk Radio. Unplug, strap yourself in, because you are about to move beyond the Matrix.
It is a great day to be alive on this earth, and it's a great day to have you in the audience listening to the show, or if you're on YouTube watching the show. We really appreciate you guys joining us. Jerry Gordon and I have a fantastic show lined up for you. We have a guest that we've had on many times before, and it's Stephen Bryen. Briefly, Stephen needs a good introduction from my producer and co-host.
Stephen is a brilliant military technologist, a former deputy Secretary of Defense for Security and Technology, and he has thoughtfully expressed his views in his Asia Times columns. But this particular program really has a bottom line. It said that whoever did this amazing son of Stuxnet cyber sleeper attack on 6 facilities in Iran probably has set back their program somewhere between 2 to 5 years.
That is,
and whoever perpetrated it,
right?
Smart.
And we're also going to explore the idea very briefly of how far behind many other countries, including the United States, are in their capability of doing what Israel has done or potentially has done. But we have a great show lined up for you, so you guys don't want to go away. Make sure that you send us an email if you would like to send us a question or a comment to Jerry or Rod at IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com, or you can also remember you can add a comment on the YouTube channel as you watch on Nativ, N-E-T-I-V online. That is one word, and you can watch the show every week at this same time on Nativ. So guys, don't go away. We have a great show lined up for you with Stephen Bryen, myself, and Jerry Gordon, and we'll talk to you in a bit.
I'm Jono Vandor.
And I'm Ross Nichols.
Join us on our program, Israel on My Mind, a show that broadcasts all the weekly goodness that flows like milk and honey from the Holy Land straight into your ears with humorous and happy news stories.
New shows are posted every Thursday at 7 p.m. Israel time, highlighting the lighter side and advancing a positive view of Israel here on Israel News Talk Radio.
Welcome back to Beyond the Matrix, here on Israel News Talk Radio.
And we have an exciting show. As we said before in the break, we have Stephen Bryen with us, regular on Beyond the Matrix. We're going to be getting an update on what's going on with the bombing of a facility or sabotage attack on the Iranian nuclear facility in Iran. But before that, we just want to say thank you for you guys that watch on YouTube, on Nativ online, N-E-T-I-V online. I thank you for your comments. They're really very good comments. Appreciate your insight, and thank you for making this show what it is. Stephen, it's a real honor to have you here, a man of great knowledge and ability to analyze. I've actually got some very good comments from people that are still within the system that wouldn't come on the show that says that you really do a great job at providing some good analysis. So it's a good comment to come from someone who's there and who knows the facts. You understand, and it comes out.
What prison did it come from, the comment?
I can't really say. Maybe later. Okay. So let's just go on. How about getting an update? There were 6 cyber and sabotage or more on the Iranian nuclear facility and missile facilities, which were hit. Kind of give us an update on what has happened.
Well, let's see. There's why don't we take it? I've written them all out.
Sure, go ahead.
Thanks to Dave Wormser, who's been keeping track of this, Dr. Dave Wormser, who was, in the NSC before and was an advisor to the vice president. Is a real expert on the Middle East. Okay, so there's a number of them. The first one we know of was on June 26th, and that's the one that hit Koger. And Koger is a missile manufacturing and production site, but I have a suspicion it's more than that, or at least it's doing things that are connected with that, but involve nuclear. Specifically, I imagine they're working on a warhead. In any case, that was put down as a gas explosion.
Now, let me ask you, the reason why you're giving that analysis is the fact that why would they waste time on a normal missile facility, correct?
Well, missiles are a real problem for Israel, for the United States, and for other countries. So it's not trivial. But I think that, and some of the targets, we really don't know what they were about yet. But clearly, I think that if you're going to do it, and it's urgent that you do it, there must be something going on that would trigger that particular target. And I think the Israeli intelligence is extremely good on this stuff. I don't think there's much they don't know about. So they haven't shared it with me, but logic says there was something nuclear going on there.
So, look, they could have done this at any time. Why now? Do you think that they had some intel that was saying that they're really close to providing something that's going to go too far?
Yeah, no, I think part of this is the fact that the Iranians are in high gear to produce nuclear weapons now. They made no secret about it. They've been clear that's what they're doing. And highly enriched uranium and all the rest of delivery systems, the whole 9 yards. So it looks to me like this became an urgent matter. And this was not something that happened. None of these things happened on the spur of the moment. We got to do something about this. Is a very elegant, sophisticated series of assaults. Let's call them assaults rather than attacks. We don't know yet a whole lot about how it was done.
Yeah, that was going to be the next following question. Do we know exactly how it was laid out or how it happened?
Well, you want to hear about the others first?
No. Absolutely.
Go ahead,
yes,
Steve.
take your time.
Okay, so after on the June 30th, which is a very important day in history because it's my birthday, there was a set of explosions underground underneath what's called the Sina Medical Center. Right. And that's in Tehran. Nobody knows exactly what was going on there either, but you don't bomb medical centers. So it's obviously what was underneath it that was all important. I don't know what they got down there. Probably, I would think, there's a nuclear command center down there. On July 2nd, an unknown opposition group called Panthers of the Nation, if there's such a thing, hit the Natanz nuclear center. And this is huge. I mean, this is where Iran was developing its advanced centrifuges, manufacturing them, building the rotors for all its centrifuges. It's a major facility. 3/4, according to what we're reading today, 3/4 of it was destroyed, maybe more.
Oh, that's big.
It's big. Yeah, it is a big operation. That was on the 2nd of July. On the 3rd of July, there was an enormous fire in Shiraz. Shiraz is a lovely town. I visited it before. No one knows exactly where, and no one knows what kind of facility it was, but everyone saw the fire. There it is. On July 4th, Independence Day, there was a fire in the southwest, mostly in Ahvaz, that destroyed a power plant. And around the same time, on the same day, another petrochemical plant blew up. So on the 7th, there was a powerful explosion that took out a warehouse or a factory south of Tehran. This is the same place, by the way, where the Israelis got the nuclear archives that they brought back to Israel.
Interesting. Okay.
So does that tell us anything? Probably. It probably tells us there's a lot of stuff going on right around there. It's a hot number. So those are the main explosions, or whatever you want to call them, that have taken place. So we got power plants, we have missile facilities, we have the centrifuge facility, we have the secret something or other buried underneath the ground in Tehran. We have a whole series. It's a very systematic. Whoever did this, and I put whoever up there, whoever did this was carrying out a systematic set of assaults with, the question is why? I think there are a couple of explanations. One of them is we can't forget that earlier the Iranians tried to disrupt, more than disrupt, but damage the Israeli water supply system.
Right.
They hit 6 facilities. Notice there's 6 facilities here. That's rather interesting. They hit 6 facilities, and what they tried to do was to really, all water supplies use chlorine as a disinfectant, but in microscopic amounts. But they have tanks of chlorine, liquid chlorine. They released that. They tried to release that into the water supply. So if people drank that water or swam in that water, they would probably get very sick, if not die. So Israel regarded that as an existential kind of attack.
So let me ask you, was that very successful, though? What they did?
It was partially successful in the sense that these water supply systems had to be shut down. Some of the equipment was damaged badly. It was not successful in that the chlorine didn't get into the water supply.
Now, were they ever able to make any arrest? Was it an inside paid job? What do you think was going on with that?
There's been no arrests, as far as I know. I think it was an external job, not an inside job.
Okay.
I think the cyber defenses, if you want to call them that, at these water facilities was below grade, let's call it poor. And I think the water, this is very typical, though, not only in Israel, but it's typical in the United States. We have a very big critical infrastructure, water supply, food supply.
Yeah, electrical too, yes.
Electrical, petrochemical, it goes on and on. Transportation, the critical infrastructure is pretty big. Almost all of them depend on industrial controllers, which are commercial items. They're called SCADA systems, SCADA. And the SCADA systems are vulnerable to attack through electronic means.
Jerry, you had something you wanted to ask?
Well, I want to take you guys back to 2016 because we had an event here in the United States in Westchester County that was finally attributed to Iranian cyber warriors controlling essentially what Stephen just talked about for the water reservoir system for the county.
Right.
We've also had other instances in this country. The most notorious one was the failure of the attack of a sort in Milwaukee, where runoff of nitrates essentially resulted in the deaths of as I recall, about 108 people.
What year is that, Jerry?
That goes back to essentially what Stephen is talking about. We are not prepared in the United States to deal with protection of these important infrastructures, essentially against foreign cyber attacks.
And we also understand that this is not isolated, that they've been doing this in other countries as well as the United States.
Oh, absolutely.
So this is pretty common.
Yeah.
Hey, guys,
SCADA means Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition System.
we're going to follow up with that after we go to a break. We'll come back and we'll pick that up right up again. You're listening to Beyond the Matrix here on Israel News Talk Radio. Don't go away, guys. We'll be right back after these very short messages.
Hi, everyone. This is Andrea Siminto from Jerusalem, inviting you to drop everything and join me on my show, Pull Up a Chair. We'll visit this week's quirky stories, meet fabulous guests, and discover my Israel. Together, we'll laugh, shout, and explain the topics that make us say, hey, we've got to talk about that. So get comfortable and pull up a chair with me, Andrea Siminto, every Thursday on Israel News Talk Radio.
Hidden treasures in the Hebrew Bible?
Then join me, Rav Yitzhak Michelson,
And me, William Hall,
on the Science of Kabbalah, where we are seeking to narrow the gap between what we understand of our physical and spiritual worlds. So make sure to tune in every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Israel time, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, here on Israel News Talk Radio.
Welcome back to Beyond the Matrix, here on Israel News Talk Radio.
Keeping you informed of what's going on in the great state of Israel and also the land around Israel. We're talking about Iran and the recent sabotage work that has taken place in Iran, cyber and regular bombings. And as we said, as Stephen said, by somebody.
Why don't we say explosion?
Explosions. Yeah, it sounds better. Yeah, sabotage.
Well, we're not sure.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know because they said
little birdie has come and told us
right.
it was a bomb.
You see, it's gas leaks, whatever. So anyway, these are the analyses that are pretty dependable. Right before the break, Stephen, Jerry brought up the idea that these are not isolated attacks that we've seen in Israel, but with the water, but we've seen it in the United States and in some other countries. Let's kind of pick it up from there to describe what we're talking about.
Okay, well, I mean, Jerry was exactly right. There's been a lot of attacks, attempted attacks, or practice attacks, let's call them that, on U.S. critical infrastructure targets, especially power plants, water supply, things of that kind, chemical facilities. The reason they're practicing and not actually doing it is if they actually do it and it happens, it's a casus belli, it's a cause of war. I mean, so the Iranians are just testing what they can get away with and also trying to figure out how vulnerable we are. Unfortunately, we're pretty vulnerable because virtually all manufacturing plants in the United States and everywhere else in the world, for that matter, use commercial SCADA or systems. These are essentially supervisory control systems that manage how a factory operates. They control everything. And these are commercial items, and so if you can figure out how to hack them, and they're basically a computer with special programming, then you can actually stop a factory from operating, cause the factory to make mistakes. You can do all kinds of things that are dangerous.
Steve, how close is Iran to producing enough fissile material for a couple of nukes?
That's a very good question, and no one knows the answer exactly. I mean, they've been refining uranium, but at the low end of the scale. What I'm talking about, to have enriched uranium sufficient for an atomic weapon, which is what I think they're aiming at, you need 95 to 98% enriched uranium. Enriching uranium is a process that uses, there are different ways to do it, but if we talk about centrifuges, the first step is to get the lowest level of enrichment, which is 10 or 15%. And if you can get that done, then you can move to the next step, and then the next step. It's sort of a cascade of. They call these centrifuge things cascades.
Okay, so is it something like a distilling process? I mean, they're making it more concentrated? Is that what it is?
Yeah, of course, it's different when you get to drink what you make.
Yeah, well, of course, but it's much more explosive.
Yes, it's a process of slowly extracting U-235 from the other compounds of uranium, largely U-238, but there are other parts in there too. And so this process takes a lot of steps. In World War II, when we first did it at Oak Ridge, we had a huge complex. Now, we didn't use centrifuges then. We used calutrons, which are essentially cyclotrons that spin the gas, and then they have scoopers that pick up the different fractions, and the highest fraction is the U-235, and that's the one they want to skim off. But you can't skim it off pure, so you skim off a little more of it than you would have had in the original. And then, you use a gas to feed those calutrons called uranium hexafluoride. Centrifuges work in a similar way. You have a sort of first level cascade of centrifuges, maybe 1,000 of them running all the time. And there, if you're lucky, you'll get 10 or 15%. And then you need even better centrifuges to do the next level. That's what the Natanz facility was supposed to be for, which was supposed to be to get that next level, get it above 20%, maybe even get it into weapons grade. So destroying it has dealt a very serious blow to the Iranian program, and I'm not sure they have any fissile material right now.
I was going to ask, I mean, obviously we know it's damaging, but if you could put a time frame, like how many years set back do you think that this damage could have done, potentially, to Iranians' research?
Anywhere between 2 and 5 years, I would guess.
Oh, well, it's buying a little time, because when we were talking about just a while back, them being a year off from being able to have a legitimate system.
Well, and no one says you can't destroy the next one.
Right, exactly.
So, I mean, I mean, I think that's the game everyone's playing is how can we delay until maybe this regime will collapse. And then maybe a new government will come that a little more, less dangerous, let's say, than the current one.
Well, it's a brilliant idea, better than all-out war, total war, for sure.
That's why you don't want attribution.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that Israel's been very careful for the most part, except for when they stole all those documents, but from the Iranians. But mostly they've been careful to have what we call plausible deniability.
Mm-hmm.
Well, who knows about that?
Right.
Their problem, not our problem.
Look, I'm telling you, when you look at the extensive, if Israel was involved in this, there had to have been an amazing amount of inside coordination from sympathizers or something, wouldn't you think?
Well, as I said, I don't know if they would. Well, that's an interesting question, because if you use inside people, you take a risk of leaks. Right. Big risk of leaks. There's no sign in this deal that any inside people were involved. There were a couple of arrests, but they were let go because they had nothing to do with it. I think bottom line is you would not use inside people.
Okay.
You would use
you would think they would fly
highly trained commandos that you would insert into the places with the right equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would use what we call the type of cyber attack, what they call kinetic cyber attack, to create the havoc that they created. But by that time, the commando teams were long gone.
Right. So you believe
that's the real trick.
So you're saying the cyber attack was possibly a cover for exfiltration or to get out of the country?
No. I'm saying that these were sleepers. They put the stuff in place, and they were sleeping. Okay.
Gotcha.
And then when the D-Day came, somebody launched the cyber part of the attack to set off the explosions.
Very interesting.
That's what I would guess, because I think that's the most logical way to do it. But, I've been wrong about that. I'm not a covert operations guy. But whoever did it, if it was done internally or externally, who knows? But whoever did it was brilliant.
Steve, you mentioned earlier that the missile base and production center was attacked, and you thought that Iran may have had the capability of fitting a nuclear warhead.
I mean, I don't think I quite said that. I said they were working on it.
Okay.
That was my judgment. It wasn't, I have no proof one way or the other. But, it seemed like two things. First of all, the attack seemed precision. It wasn't the whole place. It's a very huge facility. But it went after one node that was of high interest. So someone knew in that one node that was a target. And if you go after a singular node and not the whole thing or not other parts, it would have been more, productive from an explosion point of view. Then you're doing a surgical operation. You're after a specific target. That's what it looked like to me. And the only kind of target I would think worth the time and trouble would have been something nuclear.
And having said that, what's been the history of cooperation between North Korea and Iran on this matter?
Well, we know they're cooperating, and we know that the North Koreans have shared a lot of technology. But by the way, we don't know that the North Koreans have a delivery system either.
Right. That's true.
They have. We're pretty sure they have nuclear devices. Let's call them devices. Nuclear designs start with something big. I mean, if you took the U.S. program back in World War II, the Manhattan Project, the first bombs were like 4,000, 5,000 pounds. Huge. I mean, you can't put those on a missile. We couldn't even easily put them on an airplane. We finally figured out a way to get them into a slightly shrunk down version into a B-29. And they actually had a pit under the runway where the bomb was, and they had a hydraulic jacks to lift the bomb up into the aircraft. It was very, a lot of work went into that.
Which is really an amazing thing that we've seen throughout history, how technology has shrunk things down to such a level. But we also realized that if we can obtain that, it wouldn't be long that if we didn't have a full embargo on Iran, that they would have full-blown capabilities of missile technology, et cetera, and to have a nuclear weapon to deliver. When we come back, I would like to sort of pick up on sort of the telltale footprint of Israeli involvement in the actual cyber attack. So when we get back, we'll pick that up. Guys, you listen to Beyond the Matrix here on Israel News Talk Radio. I'm Rod Bryant, along with Jerry Gordon and Stephen Bryen, our amazing guest that we have on with his intelligence and his analysis. So don't go away. We'll be right back after these messages.
Leap of Faith with Penina Taylor.
We live in the age of information, but not inspiration. If you're like me, you're looking to be inspired to reach higher, to connect more, and to grow. Well, if you want to get warm, you need to stand close to the fire. And if you want to catch fire, you need to stand close enough to get hit by the sparks. Join me, Penina Taylor, as we walk with people who have embarked on a spiritual journey towards Torah. We'll uncover what started them on their journey and what truths they discovered along the way. So prepare to be inspired as we take a leap of faith every Sunday at 5 p.m. on Israel News Talk Radio.
Welcome back to Beyond the Matrix, here on Israel News Talk Radio.
We are in the last final phase of the show, third segment, and we have Stephen Bryen with us. And Jerry, we've been discussing this cyber attack and the actual explosions in Iran and how it's tied to Israel. Before I went to the break, I had asked Jerry to discuss the code that was used, the Stuxnet codes used by and what sort of telltale sign was Israel involved in the development of this code?
Well, that was a lead on Steve's article in Asia Time. He said this may have been son of Stuxnet. So what we want to clarify for our viewers and listeners is essentially what was the Stuxnet project all about way back in 2010, but also these little peculiar aspects of the code in the virus that were related to, of all people, Queen Esther and the assassination of a major Persian Jewish leader.
He was hanged
in May of 1979.
Yeah. Well,
So
let's
Steve,
start at the top. Let's talk about what Stuxnet was. It's 2010. It was the joint project, allegedly, because all these things are allegedly a joint project between Israel and the United States to come up with a way of damaging Iran's nuclear program. And the objective was to take out Iran's centrifuges through a cyber attack. The challenge was that Iran's centrifuges were not in any way connected to the internet. So somehow the virus or worm, as this thing was actually a worm, had to be imported into the facility. So somebody unknowingly was used to carry it in, and it spread through Bluetooth. So that should tell you a little bit about how safe your computers are. But anyway, Stuxnet was what it did was it impacted both the industrial controller, which was a Siemens PC7 Step 7 controller, industrial controller SCADA system, and it also hit the programmable control system, which was another set of software and hardware came from Finland, but was manufactured. Both of them were manufactured under license in Tehran. So Stuxnet was designed to spin these centrifuges out of control so they would break down. And it was fairly successful. Some say about 25% of the centrifuges at the time were damaged beyond repair. Who knows what the real number is? But it was an explosion. The thing that's different now compared to then is there was no explosion, there was no fire, there was no attempt to cause destruction beyond irretrievably damaging the centrifuges. That was Stuxnet. Son of Stuxnet, which I call son of Stuxnet, is different because it is connected to some form of fire and explosion. Whether that's a bomb, we don't know. But my guess is it is. How the bomb got put in there, I don't know. Somebody took it in. How'd they do that? It's a very sophisticated operation. You asked about what code was in the original Stuxnet, which is sort of interesting. There was a lot of exploitation of the Stuxnet worm by Western companies who were trying to figure out how this thing worked. It was first of all, it was an encrypted software, so it was very hard to even penetrate it. But it was penetrated, and two things that popped out was the use of the term myrtus, M-Y-R-T-U-S, in English, myrtus, which actually refers to myrtle, and that's the Hebrew word for that. Another word is Hadassah. And Hadassah is Queen Esther. So that was one kind of giveaway. So somebody was having fun in Israel on that one. And the second was a number, 1979-0509, one single number, which was supposedly a number to stop the process from continuing. It actually referred to May 9th, 1979, which was the date in which Habib el-Ghanian, an Iranian or Persian Jew, was executed in Tehran because he was objecting to the regime. And when that happened, the Jews left, started leaving. I mean, because he was a very prominent citizen in the Jewish community, a very prominent member of the Jewish community, and Jews were afraid.
Yeah,
so they left.
At some level, he was a gatekeeper for the community, wasn't he?
Yes, absolutely. So it was a tragedy, but I think that the homage to him in Stuxnet was on purpose.
I think it's brilliant. Let's kind of shift a little bit. I want to talk about the new intelligence satellite, AFEC 16. What do we know about it? What its capabilities?
Well, it's a follow-on to the existing one that they have, but it's got more refined cameras and sensors. It has multiple sensors. I mean, look, the Israelis are looking for any signs of test explosions. I think that's the number one thing. And then, of course, they're looking for any movement in the nuclear program, any shipment of equipment, changes in status, anything they can pick up. They're doing 24/7 monitoring.
So this censoring, we're talking about censoring nuclear radiation. What are we talking about? Or just visual?
Radiation sensors, okay. Heat sensors, vibration sensors, all kinds of sensors.
Jerry, go ahead.
I mean, look, there's a chance the Iranians explode the warhead underground.
Right.
Now, seismically, you might be able to pick it up, but if it's really small, you might not.
So you won't even see a radiation.
But you may see some disturbance on the ground.
Huh. I didn't realize. I just assumed that when you exploded something underground, it wouldn't take long for radiation to seep out of the ground. I didn't know.
Depends how well. It depends where it's done. If it's down deep in a salt mine, where there's a strong cap, it may not leak radiation right away.
So
Steve,
go ahead, Jerry.
These satellites have what I call LIDAR, which is ground penetrating radar.
I don't know if the OFIC has that. Ground penetrating radar is it's a good tool, but it has limitations because usually it requires a lot of power to be effective. And so a lot of these LIDAR systems are actually mounted on vehicles because you can't really do it from outer space. What you can do from outer space, which we do, we have done it for years, and it's very important, is monitor missile launches.
Correct.
And now that Israel has a Arrow 3, which is capable of going out of the atmosphere, they're moving toward what I think is the right way to move, which is to be able to attack missiles just after launch, rather than waiting for them to come over your territory.
Well, I think that's been a discussion that we have had in times past about American air defense systems, and the most effective one is one that gets the missile before it even leaves that region, right?
Because that's what brilliant Pebbles was in the SDI program was all about. We never did it. Now they're talking about it again. I think within a few years we will have to have space-based.
So you don't think that it's? I mean, I made an assumption, and this is just an assumption that after the Reagan era, there was a program that was set forward to at least get the beginning parts of that system set up in space, that we already have capability. You don't think we have that capability at all right now?
No, we don't.
Oh, okay.
We have a sensor capability, but we've had that all along.
Right.
So there's one thing look, they fired a missile at us. Isn't that terrible? But what are you going to do about it?
Right.
And there we're in big trouble.
And we don't have the ability to take down a satellite.
Well, we have an ability to take down a satellite, but the satellite's not a nuclear missile.
Right. Yeah, of course.
Satellite runs on a predictable path. You know when it's going to come over.
That's true.
It's visible. I mean, there's a lot of things about a satellite that make it a fairly easy duck shoot.
When
you're shooting at a missile that has multiple warheads,
right?
Some of which are real and some which may be decoys, which are released into a pattern. Sometimes erratic, and you have to find the needle in the haystack and do it within a few milliseconds. It's a tough problem. That's why you want to get them before they release their warheads, when they're just off the launch pad, if possible.
Well, in the case of the great state of Israel, you want to get it before they even develop the missile to go up in the air.
Yeah, I mean, they have the missiles already.
Right. Well, we only have about 45 seconds. Overall, if you were going to give a grade on the nation of Israel and their ability to protect the country from nuclear attack from Iran, what grade would you give them?
B+.
B+. Wow, beautiful. It's incredible.
I think, well, we have an F.
I didn't want to ask you about the United States. But pretty
F
much
minus. We're in terrible mess.
Right.
I'm worried about us.
Yeah, I'm worried about also the internal part. But Jerry and I got into discussion a week this week about it as well. So okay, we're out of time. Stephen, really appreciate your input into the show. Looking forward to having you come back next time. And in the meantime, all of you guys that are listening on Israel News Talk Radio, thank you so much. And you guys that are watching on YouTube, thank you so much for watching on the location, Nativ, N-E-T-I-V, online, one word. And until next week, we say shalom, shalom.
If you love Israel News Talk Radio, then you'll love our Facebook page. We keep you up to date on what's happening in Israel, plus little surprise treasures that we don't share on the radio. Go now to follow us on Facebook. Just look for the Israel News Talk Radio Facebook page, and don't forget to subscribe and follow us by clicking on the like button. We post great stuff there that you'll want to share. Israel News Talk Radio on Facebook and Israel News Radio on Twitter.
If you're hearing this message, everyone else can too. Advertise with Israel News Talk Radio and get your message out to people. We'll build a personalized package for you. Contact advertising at israelnewstalkradio.com.
Straight talk from Israel. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
Hey, this is Jake in Anchorage, Alaska, and I love listening to all the super interesting interviews and up-to-date information on what's happening in Israel.
Hello, this is Anna King, originally from London, now living in Israel. And what can I say? Israel News Talk Radio is my cup of tea.
My name is Bhaskar. I'm from India, and I love listening because you get to know the truth and wonderful voices from this lovely country.
Mom! Okay, wait a minute. Hi, this is Chava Dax, and I'm calling from the rolling hills of Ma'ale Adumim, just north of Jerusalem. I always listen to Israel News Talk Radio to get all the latest news and commentary and to keep me up to date every day.
This is Sarah Dax from Ma'ale Adumim, and I'm 12. I wish Israel News Talk Radio was boring so my mom wouldn't listen to it all the time. Mom!
You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
News, opinion, and more. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.